Hello and welcome to another episode of PDA Dad UK. This one's going to be a little different. What I'm basically doing is looking at myths that are out there about autistic people and smashing them, hopefully, creating a new understanding and helping people to realise that autism isn't something you can just shove in a box and that's what it is. So I'm calling it the Autistic Mythbusting series. And so they'll come up every now and again. And I wanted to start this episode with looking at what autism actually looks like. I was talking to a journalist from the BBC earlier this week and talking about why I've done this channel and why I run the group I run on Facebook. And a big part of it is that I don't want my daughter to be misunderstood. And he said, yeah, he's not a parent and he doesn't have a big understanding of autism. But one thing that makes him cringe is he puts on TV or he puts on a film, and if there's an autistic representation in there of some description, it tends to fit into sort of one category. That's being broken at the moment by shows like the A Word and so forth. But it really does make him cringe that there's this stereotype out there, and really it started with Rain Man. And Rain Man's a great film, and certainly there are autistic people that fit into the representation that was made of autism in that. It was a very, what I would call a severely autistic person who really was very insular. You know, Dustin Hoffman got the Academy Award for it, and it was a very popular film at the time, and it certainly did break down some barriers and help people understand that autism was out there. But it really did trigger a stereotype that people accept of autism means that you're almost non-verbal, or non-verbal autism means that you are unable to communicate effectively. It means you're in a meltdown at a moment's notice. You got to have your hand held through life in whatever way, that you're never going to be independent, you're never going to be self-sufficient, you're never going to be successful in your own right unless you've got people there helping you. And that is utter crap, if you'll excuse that language, but it's just a joke. It's just not true. You've seen, I've interviewed on my channel here my friend Emily, who runs Artie Boho. She makes her own jewellery, she sells it, she's made a very successful business out of that. She's in a very healthy relationship, she's got a really awesome partner, and she's got a family, and they are happy and they are successful and they are doing the things that we all want for our kids and for ourselves, and they're doing a really good job of it, and she's in fact using her autism to boost that. There are so many famous autistic people out there that you may not realise are autistic. Celebrity who we're probably very aware of is Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd is obviously a star in Ghostbusters. He was also the creator of Ghostbusters, and he has talked in the past about how his Asperger's, which is what he was diagnosed with when he was in his teens, actually helped him. He became very interested in ghosts. It became a special interest of his, ghosts and ghost hunting, and he got really into it. And it was actually through that and researching it that the idea of Ghostbusters was born. And he was then able to go on and write Ghostbusters, and the rest is history, as they say. Jerry Seinfeld is autistic, and I'm a big fan of Seinfeld. I used to watch that show religiously. I went through a phase about a year ago where I went and rewatched all the episodes because I just find them brilliant. He's autistic, and by his own acknowledgement, he's what he would label as mildly autistic. But it's actually being able to see things from that different perspective that's helped his comedy and helped his stand-up, and the hyper-focus that comes with it that's actually allowed him to channel his attention into what he does.
The markers, if I were sitting here analyzing you...
You're never paying attention to the right things. Basic social engagement is really a struggle. I'm very literal.
If it seems like he has no problem getting along with his guests, that's probably because that's really the case.
They're the only kind of people that I feel completely relaxed around.
Another recent, not so much a celebrity, but incredibly successful businessman is Bill Gates. If you look at this video here, which was taken during one of his dispositions, you can see he's very clearly stimming, he's rocking, and obviously this is a stim that he's learnt to control over time, and it's less obvious, but in a situation where he was very stressed and concerned, he was stimming, and that's just one thing that you can see. But obviously, again, his brain and the way he thinks, the way he operates and the way he manages his business, which is obviously influenced by his autism because it's just an innate part of who he is, has really made a difference in his success. He is responsible for one of my favourite quotes of all time, which was, "Be nice to nerds, you'll probably end up working for one." It may be the case that that could be altered to be nice to autistics, you may end up working for one. That's just the kind of guy he is, and it's inspiring. There are also women who are on the spectrum that have made successful lives for themselves. The first being Daryl Hannah. In this interview here, Daryl Hannah actually explains her autism, what it was like for her growing up as an autistic, and how it's been moving into adulthood.
It was, yes, I had been taken out of school for about a year. Always since I was a baby, I always rocked. I always, would get hypnotized by fires. And I wouldn't say I was introverted. I was more out there somewhere. I was off in the dream world all the time and was not very communicative. And in the 60s, they did like Rorschach tests and things. It wasn't very...
Literally,
Yeah, it was like, here's an ink blot, what does that mean? And my answers were all wrong, apparently. She took me out of school. She kind of just let me, sort of exist in my imaginary world for a good year or so, and sort of slowly reintegrated me back into the normal world, whatever that means. But it's always been an awkward fit, but I definitely, as I grow older, I've definitely learned how to deal with it better. I still struggle. I still am not comfortable. I'm not an extrovert. I'm not, I'm not a natural exhibitionist or anything.
And I'm going to finish off with one of my favourites, which is Anne Haggerty, who is the governess on The Chase. I think she's a remarkably inspiring woman. She was very open about her autism when she went on to I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and she talked about it a lot. And what I really like is that she's again somebody who's used her hyperfocus and her autistic traits to actually benefit her life, and she's made a real success of that. She's incredibly intelligent and she's very focused. And I just think she's amazing.
But you were in your 50s when you were diagnosed?
No, let me think, it was 2003, so I was 40, no, it was 2005, I was 47.
Okay, so that's quite late. Were you aware that you might have a condition?
I was aware right from when I was a child that something was very unusual about me. I mean, I was going to see child psychiatrists by the time I was 6. Nobody could put a label on it. They just said I was maladjusted. In those days, people didn't realise that autism was a spectrum. This wasn't discovered until about the 1990s. And up until then, you thought of an autistic kid as non-verbal and very low functioning. And the fact that I could talk and could sort of actually go to school made people
and very
assume
high functioning as well, we should say, in some areas.
In some ways, yes. It's why they say it's a spectrum. There can be all sorts of things where, you can be high functioning in some areas and low functioning in other areas.
So in terms of high functioning, obviously we see your quizzing.
Yes, absolutely.
What would you say is the downside of it for you?
Just simply I'm very bad at just sort of organising just practical things. I'm sort of your absent-minded professor type. I just remember that very first night in camp and just sort of looking at this ground sheet on the ground and this rolled up bedroll and thinking, I can't begin to get my head around what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
I mean, I think somebody else untied the bedroll and put it down. And I think it was about 48 hours before I realised I'd actually got a sleeping bag. I actually just sort of crawled in under the ground sheet. But it's just sort of quite basic stuff, like keeping everything tidy.
And I know it's Asperger's, isn't it, that you
yes,
have?
Yes, well, the difference, I think nowadays people tend to refer to it all as autism or high-functioning autism. The difference always used to be it would be labelled high-functioning autism if you were late in talking. And as far as anyone can remember, I talked at the normal age, which means it's Asperger's.
I see.
But the difference doesn't... People nowadays are tending to say autism all the time, so I'm starting doing that too.
So there we are. They're just a few examples of people in today's society, and I've really focused on today's society because of the people that can confirm their diagnosis. There's been a lot of talk of people in the past who've been posthumously diagnosed, people like Andy Warhol, Steve Jobs. There's a lot of people out there, Charles Darwin, Mozart. They're all people that have been posthumously, if you like, diagnosed with autism or Asperger's in some form or another, and it's not something that you can really validify other than by research and saying, well, this would seem to fit. There was never an official diagnosis for them. But with the people we've looked at today, these are people who are for the most part still around today and are absolutely inspirational in the things that they do. And there can be a real fear for what a future holds for our autistic kids. Are they going to be successful? Are they going to be able to be part of society and function? And that's just it, they are. And in fact, in many cases, they're the people that are going to be the leaders of tomorrow. They're going to be the people who push the boundaries of what's understood, what's possible. Without autistic people, we wouldn't have made so many of the discoveries and so many of the progressions that we've made as a society. And we've got a lot to thank autism for. Our kids are amazing, and they're going to be amazing, and they're going to do amazing things. So be inspired by the people you've just seen. And let's see, I guess the Autism Rocks hashtag that's out there. It's absolutely right. Autism is an awesome thing, and it can be an awesome extra ability that our kids have, and their future is brighter for it in so many cases. Please do comment if you've got your kids, or if you yourself are autistic and you've seen amazing things that you've been able to accomplish, or you've seen your kids accomplish. I'd love to hear about it. We'd all love to hear about it. Please do like and subscribe. This is not possible without people subscribing. It just gets the message out there. There's no money to be made from this. It is purely that I want to get the message out there that autism isn't something to be feared, it's something to be celebrated. So please do hit that like and hit that subscribe, comment, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.